This is a production of PBS Charlotte.
Just ahead on Carolina Impact.
It was the biggest one-day layoff in North Carolina history, and Kannapolis is still trying to bounce back. I'm Jeff Sonnier. Stick around. We'll show you what's happening here in K-Town since Cannon Mills left town, and our special series, Remade in the Carolinas.
Plus,
adaptive sled hockey comes to Charlotte. I'm Sheila Saints. We'll tell you more coming up.
and as the Winter Olympics wind down, did you know there's an Olympian who lives right here in our area? Don't go anywhere. Carolina Impact starts right now.
Carolina Impact, covering the issues, people, and places that impact you. This is Carolina Impact.
Good evening. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Amy Burkett. I'm grateful to have never experienced the loss of a job. I can imagine it would be horrific, but how much more difficult would it be if your family members were all laid off too, and all of your friends and your neighbors? Everybody out of work on the same day, and the layoffs are permanent. That's what happened in Kannapolis when Cannon Mills shut down. In our special series, Remade in the Carolinas, Textile Towns, Carolina Impact's Jeff Sonnier takes us to Kannapolis.
Here in downtown Kannapolis, well, you see empty storefront after empty storefront. Lots of boarded up doors and windows. All reminders of some of this textile town's darkest days.
I'm going down to the city of looms, gonna meet my destination.
The collapse of Cannon Mills was hard on Kannapolis. Hard to watch, hard to comprehend, hard to believe, really.
I'm going down to the city of looms.
They were once the largest manufacturer of towels in the world. 300,000 towels a day here in Kannapolis, 30,000 on the payroll.
Down on Southern ground.
Once you got a job there, you had a job as long as you wanted to work.
But then the hometown mill that kept Kannapolis working for 97 years just stopped working.
All of a sudden, they closed it, just like that. And the people had to leave.
Yeah, Kannapolis was a Cannon Mills company town back then. Only now the company's gone. The jobs are gone. Even the mill buildings. Gone.
And I think, well, now this is where the main office used to be. And I go by, oh, this is where Plant 1 used to be. There's where the cotton warehouses were. Well, there's Plant 7 over here.
At age 95, Norris Dearman has more memories than most of us. His 43-year career at Cannon Mills began in 1938, when he was still in high school.
I worked in the mill blowing off looms. I thought everybody had to go work in the mill at some time or other. And anybody that came out of high school could go to Mr. Cannon the next day and get a job in the mill. He told them that. And that's what a lot of them did. And a good many of them worked there for the rest of their life. And they were happy. And they had food on the table, and they had money in their pockets. Wasn't a whole lot, but it was, you know, good enough to live off of, and they were satisfied. That gave those people a chance to get an education and send them to college for 4 years. It covered it.
Eventually, Dearman himself worked at the Cannon Mills main office, overseeing the company's first computers. These old tabulation machines from his office are now on display here at the Kannapolis Museum. 97 years of mill history, crammed into 2 rooms at the high school. That history includes the largest layoff ever in North Carolina, 4,340 Cannon workers in Kannapolis, all losing their jobs the same day. Norris Dearman remembers.
Well, they were marched out of the mill, so they couldn't carry off things in the mill, I guess.
There were so many of them that did not know what they were going to do. They didn't know, that was the only thing they knew how to do.
Phil Allen says his co-workers at Cannon were like family, and when they suffered, well, so did the downtown shops and stores that were the mill's extended family.
When the mill shut down, a lot of them went out of business. It paralyzed a lot of people because there were so many people that depended on Cannon Mills for a living. But there's no smoke at all coming out of the stack, for the mill is shut down and it ain't coming back.
Today, the only thing left are these old mill houses in Kannapolis, across the street from where Cannon Mills used to be. Their front porches now overlooking mostly open fields instead, and off in the distance, in the middle of those open fields, you can see the new research buildings, UNC and NC State and Duke and all the other universities, sending their scientists to what's now called the North Carolina Research Campus.
We have to extract the compounds that could be the ones that are interacting in the human body.
Here, the shuttle looms and spinning rooms are long gone. It's a world of lab coats and latex gloves now. The new Kannapolis City Hall is here too.
We have over 1,000 people who work at the research campus on a day-to-day basis. In addition to that, because of the research that's going on, we are now revitalizing our downtown.
Mayor Darrell Hinnant talks with pride about the work already underway, turning the old Plant One site into a new downtown baseball stadium, which will tie in with new park areas along West Avenue, new stores and restaurants, new condos and offices. The city is saving a few of its most historic downtown buildings, but it will be a lot different than the old downtown Kannapolis, and the mayor admits that's part of the problem. The grander the plan, the louder the doubters.
Many questions came up. Are you going to make it like it used to be? And the reality is, it is not going to be like it used to be. It is going to be something totally different than it used to be, but it's going to have lots of jobs, it's going to have lots of activity.
Kannapolis is also seeing lots of jobs and activity outside of downtown, including this huge new distribution center for Amazon, promising 600 jobs to start with and another 600 eventually, not to mention all those Kannapolis construction jobs over the next few years.
Part of the difficulty is, I think, that people expect overnight results, and it's just because they want a job, they want better income, they want an opportunity to make life better for their families.
They're trying to bring stuff into town to get things back, but it's going to take a while.
For Cannon old-timers like Phil Allen, the more recent changes he's seeing downtown and the jobs he's seeing at Amazon are a lot easier to relate to than those research labs across the tracks from his mill house on Main Street.
It don't help what they call normal people. If you don't have a college education, you're not going into research and development. I don't care what you do.
Well, it was a pretty building.
Meanwhile, Norris Dearman figures second base at that new Kannapolis ballpark. Well, it looks like it's right about where his old office at Plant Number One was.
Seems a shame, but that's bygone now. We just have to dream about it the way it used to be, just to reminisce about it.
You don't want to forget this.
I know, that's right. I don't want to forget it. It meant something to me then and still does today, even though it's not there.
Jeff Sonnier is with me now in the studio, and grateful for your series of reports. We've learned so much about the textile towns in our area. What makes Kannapolis different than some of the others?
Well, every textile town was affected by the collapse of the industry, but in Kannapolis, they had more than 4,000 layoffs in one day. The other towns, it kind of was a cascading effect. One mill would close, then another, then another. In Kannapolis, they all closed on one day, one company shutting everything down, and that was just an economic gut punch that I'm not sure any town can really relate to like Kannapolis has had to relate to.
Is there still bitterness in town, even though it's been a long time?
I think there is. You know, the folks in Kannapolis, they love the Cannons, the founders of the mill itself, but the mill was taken over by outsiders, by another company before it shut down. And I think a lot of the folks that live in Kannapolis, they don't just blame foreign competition. I think they blame the new owners for part of the problem that led to the shutdown of Cannon Mills. Again, everybody lost their job, friends, family, neighbors, all on the same day. And collectively, they're looking for a villain. And in many ways, the ownership of Cannon Mills today, or then, was the villain they found.
Do you consider Kannapolis and the research park successful?
Well, it's not what I consider successful, but a lot of folks in Kannapolis look at the jobs that have been created, the new buildings that have replaced where the mill used to be, and they see growth, and they see innovation, and they see a calling card that Kannapolis can use going forward to distinguish itself from other small towns. Interestingly, you talk to some of the folks who used to work in the mill, they don't see the big buildings. They see the wide open spaces around the big buildings. They wonder why the growth has taken so long and why they're not specifically affected by that growth. So it's all a matter of context. Depends on how you're looking at that research campus on whether you think it's successful or not.
Anything else on the horizon?
Well, our Textile Town documentary is coming up in a couple of weeks, and we're all excited about that. We've kind of checked off all the towns on our bucket list. We've been to 8 different textile towns, 8 different stories. Every story is similar in some ways, but very different in others. They all have different histories, all have different futures, and it's been a learning experience for us and hopefully an enjoyable experience for the viewers as well.
We appreciate your reports, and I always love the fact that I learn something new every time you come to visit.
Thanks, Amy.
As a reminder, Remade in the Carolinas Textile Towns documentary premieres Monday, March 5th at 7 p.m. Well, American businessman Lee Iacocca once said, "In times of great stress or adversity, it's always best to keep busy, to plow your anger and your positive energy into something positive." Our next story is the epitome of that. You're about to meet a man who overcame adversity by turning a tragic event in his life into a way to help others. As Carolina Impact's Sheila Saints reports, Charlotte has a new competitive sport in town, thanks to him.
It's Saturday, and these athletes take to the ice practicing sled hockey. But something sets them apart. They each have a disability or physical limitation.
I get knocked down, but I get up again. You're never gonna keep me down. I get knocked down, but I get up again. You're never gonna keep me down.
I have what's called transverse myelitis, and it's an autoimmune injury. And I know I'm in a wheelchair, but I don't see that I'm in a wheelchair. When it comes to a sport, it's, especially when you get into the sled, as soon as you get in the sled, you're an athlete, that's it.
I love doing this.
Jeremy Gilbert played sled hockey in Dallas, Texas. When he moved back to Charlotte, he joined the nearest club in Raleigh, but it was a long drive. He thought, why isn't there a program in Charlotte? So he started one. He formed a nonprofit, Queen City Adaptive Recreation, and the Queen City Sled Hockey Club is the first initiative.
With disability, I think a lot of people feel a little bit outside of the community that they used to be part of. With hockey, what we're trying to do is we're trying to build a community of people where you can go out and you can experience the same thing together, and we're going to help you minimize those obstacles to get there. So we're going to provide you equipment, transportation, funding if you need it. One of the really great things about sled hockey is anybody can play.
He received a Labatt USA Pass It Forward grant to purchase and maintain equipment, including youth equipment, and to rent ice time. Each sled cost $600. Jeremy has been a lifelong athlete. While living in Dallas, he went mountain biking one day, like he had so many other times.
Thought I would get a quick ride in before I went out with some friends that night. I remember loading my bike up on the car, and next thing I knew, I woke up in the hospital about 8 hours later. So
he sustained a spinal injury and lost the use of his legs.
Yeah, it's quick how things change. I lived it. I was very active prior to the injury, and that made a huge difference in my recovery.
Jeremy organizes the Sled Hockey Club with the help of his parents and others.
I had 4 bolts a second ago.
His skills as a mechanical engineer come in handy.
It's just amazing what he's accomplished, what he does, and the sincerity that he communicates to other people. I know it's a struggle, but it doesn't ever come across that way. He just enjoys life.
After the accident, he said, "There's a reason for it. I have a feeling that I'm here to do something more important." And I think he's found his calling.
The rules for sled hockey and regular hockey are almost identical. The big difference is you use 2 sticks instead of 1, and when you first learn, it's all about balance.
Because without balance, you can't move, you can't turn, you can't pass. The first time I was on the ice with Jeremy, I was on the ice for 2 hours, and I lost count. I think I fell over 50 times.
It's coming.
Nice. It's an awesome feeling just for him to have the ability to, play all the different sports, whether it's adaptive or able-bodied. So it's really cool.
One of the most common analogies that I hear is that it's like flying.
When they get out onto the ice, they have the freedom that they don't experience in an everyday life. You put up with an awful lot of things when you're in a chair and you can't do everything everybody else can, but when you can come out here and be equal on the ice and enjoy it, it's back to where they were.
It was just a way of me getting back into a sport and being athletic. I've got more drive now. Even though you can't get up and run or walk, doesn't mean you can't do a sport.
The first time he got on the ice, I could see it in his eyes. I mean, he lit up. And I was like, I know that feeling. I found hockey at a low point in my life following my accident, and it made a huge difference.
I get knocked down, but I get up again. You're never gonna keep me down. I get knocked down, but I get up again. You're never gonna keep me down.
If I could have that effect on one other person, anything I do with this organization would be worth it. My accident would be worth it. And I think I've done that about 20.
And Jeremy has found his own sense of purpose, participating in sled hockey tournaments and getting back on a mountain bike. For Carolina Impact, I'm Sheila Saints reporting.
Thanks so much, Sheila. Queen City Sled Hockey is open to everyone, and they're always looking for new players. You can contact them through their Facebook page, and we've got a link with this story on our Carolina Impact page at pbscharlotte.org. Well, the Winter Olympics in South Korea has caught everyone's attention. But did you know a Winter Olympian lives right here in Charlotte? The 1992 Olympic silver medalist in men's figure skating, Paul Wiley, calls Charlotte home, and I loved watching him skate. Recently, Carolina Impact's Suzette Rhee spent some time with him.
So many of us remember him at the 1992 Olympics in Albertville, France.
The next jump is crucial. It's a jump that he's been landing so well all week. The triple axel. Yes!
Who knew the breakout star of these Olympic Games would be our own Paul Wiley?
That's not just well done, that is terrific for Paul Wiley. And
as an elite skater, Wiley was always a contender at major competitions. But he struggled to balance his artistry and technical talents into a clean program. That is, until these Olympic Games.
I was one of the dark horses, and I was the third guy on the team. I made the team by 1/10 of a point. It was controversial that I even got to go. And then I wound up winning the silver medal.
At his home in Charlotte, Wiley shows us his Olympic medal. His understated style means this medal and many others are usually stored away. And you'd have to look closely to see a few mementos of those celebrated years, keepsakes that take us back to those days.
Paul Wiley is on fire this year. Since his silver medal in Albertville, he has soared to new heights on the ice. His artistry is redefining men's skating.
Wiley showed time and time again that he could deliver a powerful performance. And he was never afraid to try something new, including this, where he performed a rhythmic blade routine. This is Extreme Ice Center in Indian Trail, and this has been Paul Wiley's home rink since 2006. Wiley's success in skating is celebrated at the rink. A powerful image of him is a permanent fixture here, where occasionally you will see him skate. This is where dozens of skaters and their coaches train every single day.
All you need to do is focus your hips this way.
Wiley says he loves to coach, loves to help athletes find their best in skating.
I wasn't always the best jumper or whatever, but there was something about the way I heard the music and then was able to express it that I think that was something that God gave me.
Today, Wiley is one of figure skating's most sought-after ambassadors. This figure skating Hall of Famer travels extensively to share his wisdom and experience as a speaker, a guest coach, and a performer at select shows and events. Wiley wants to pass along his love of skating to the next generation in every way that he can.
It's about, what do you love? What are you interested in doing here? How do you like the movement? Do you like interpreting the music? I mean, at the end of the day, it comes down to, I love doing this. It's fun.
Fitness has always been important for Wiley, and while this Olympian can now exercise at a park, in 2015, he faced a huge health scare. While working out with a group, Wiley collapsed. His heart stopped. Thankfully, his friends knew CPR, and with the help of emergency personnel and a team of doctors, Wiley was revived, put into a medically induced coma, and made a remarkable and some would call miraculous recovery.
I got a pacemaker and a defibrillator, Medtronic device that I have. And then later on, I learned that, I had this other thing, which was aortic stenosis, and I had to get, a valve replacement, but I wouldn't have been sensitive unless I had known about that. So I think, I definitely feel like I was in God's hands through the whole thing.
Life in the Carolinas is good for Olympian Paul Wiley. He is healthy, his family is thriving, and the kids keep the parents busy for sure. He still travels the world for figure skating, but Charlotte, Wiley says, is home. For Carolina Impact, I'm Suzette Reed.
Thanks so much, Suzette. Wiley went to South Korea, working with a radio network covering the Olympics this year. Well, from winning a gold to harvesting nature's liquid gold. That's how raw honey is often referred to due to its amazing properties. And according to the North Carolina State University Apiculture Program, there are about 15,000 beekeepers across the state. In fact, there are more beekeepers in North Carolina than any other state. Even during the dreary days of winter, bees are active inside the hive, and they become more active outside when the temperature stays in the mid-50s. Carolina Impact's Russ Hunsinger introduces us to a local beekeeper.
Bees are an insect of the Apius family. Apis mellifera is the honeybee. Bees are one of our multi-generational colonies, which means there are multiple generations living in the same colony. They are controlled not by the queen, which a lot of people think they are, but by the colony itself. So the colony is what controls what goes on with the queen and with the colony as a whole. In each of our hives, we have 3 different types of bees. The one everybody's most familiar with is the queen. The queen is responsible for laying all the eggs. She's responsible for maintaining and creating a pheromone effect that keeps the hive one smell to make them all know that they've all one combined unit. Then we have the worker bees, and the worker bees are all females. They can't lay eggs, so the queen is the only one that can. The worker bees take care of the foraging, they take care of the hive sanitation, they take care of protecting the hive. The third type of bee that we would have would be called drones. And in the spring, once the weather changes, and what will happen is they'll signal the queen to begin to lay eggs again. Those fertilized eggs will become males, and those are drones. And they only have one job, and that is to mate with a queen.
Sweeter than a honeybee, yeah, my queen bee.
The beehive has several different products that are used commercially. Probably the best known, of course, is our honey, and that is a concentrated flower nectar. During the spring and during the nectar flow, we put on honey boxes, and they're brand new frames that allows them to build out brand new cells. And then they begin to collect all the excess nectar from all the flowers. That's where they end up depositing them. All of our worker bees are all involved in wax production. There's a series of glands under their abdomen that they will excite and extract with their legs. These little wax flakes, they'll take them up in their mandibles and they'll go ahead and manipulate it, and they'll build all the comb. The propolis is a product that is being harvested. Naturalists are using it as an antibiotic type of a product. It is the bees' antibiotics. They excrete propolis, and they'll coat the inside of the hive with it, and it just helps glue the whole box together so that the hive itself is protected. Honey really has lots of different hues to it. The honey's all have different qualities to them. The nectars from each flower has different qualities to them as well. Our beekeeping group each year has a honey tasting and a honey taste-off. And it's incredible how we line up all of our different honeys, and mine tastes different from the girls here in the backyard than somebody that lives 3 miles from here. Honeybees are one of our most important pollinators. Bees are responsible for at least 1/3 to 2/3 of the different foods that we actually have in our grocery stores. The biggest challenge that we have for bees, especially in our urban areas, are indiscriminate use of different pesticides and herbicides. You want to keep in mind that you use it, follow the directions. And items that are flowering, it's not always a good idea to spray them as well. So that's when you have the majority of your pollinators dropping on top of them. And we're losing some of our urban beehives are being killed off just because of that reason.
Thanks so much for us. If you'd like to find out more about beekeeping, check out the Mecklenburg County Beekeepers Association website. Well, for months now, you've probably heard us talk about our 3D project, Dreamers, Doers, Destiny. It's our 4-year community engagement commitment to help with Charlotte's upward mobility issue. On March 9th at 10 a.m., we're doing a town hall forum, and we'd love for you to be part of our audience. We've invited community leaders, including Stephanie Cooper-Luter, who is the new executive director of the Leading on Opportunity Council, Dr. Candy Diedemeyer, president of Central Piedmont Community College, CMS Superintendent Clayton Wilcox, and Bob Morgan with the Charlotte Chamber. To be part of our studio audience, call 704-330-5915, or you can register online at pbscharlotte.org. Now, we only have a limited number of space, so you do need to RSVP in advance so we know we're coming. I'd love to meet you, so I hope to see you then. Well, whether you can join us there or not, please email us your questions for our panelists to carolinaimpact@wtvi.org. You can also leave us questions on our Facebook page. This is your chance to be part of the discussion as we look for ways to improve upward mobility opportunities in our community. Please get involved. Well, before we go, a shout out to special guests in our studio tonight. These students are from the UNC Charlotte Career Treks program, sponsored by the University Career Center. Now, the Treks program takes students to local companies to learn about career paths. These students are interested in media and communications industry, and we are so very glad that they chose today to spend some time with us. Well, we're out of time. Thanks so much for joining us. We always appreciate your time and look forward to seeing you back here again next time on Carolina Impact. Good night, my friends.
A production of PBS Charlotte.